There's my preliminary drawing. There's still a background. Here's the background here of the pine needles on the ground. There's a little bit of burnt sienna, a little touch of pyro red, a little reddish brown. It'll get those background pine cones on the ground, or pine needles. And I'm painting around this old tree back here, and the split rail fence here. One of my favorite subjects. I love to paint split rail fences. They're just a lot of fun. Old fashioned. It's going to be a quick color study. Just capture the essence of this old fence. And just blocking in the background here. Alright, so I was working on the background and had a different brush, so I'm going to use here's my palette. Remember the palette I had here yesterday, and going to use a quill brush to get started here. And I mixed up a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of red, little pyro red, just to give me a little reddish brown for the background here. That's those pine needles on the ground. I'm using red, a little bit of burnt sienna is all I need. And go back in here and just put in a quick wash. Burnt sienna, pyro red, just give me a nice reddish tone here of the background. Now go around these trees a little bit. So I'll start out here with this little background here of the tree, of the ground here, of pine needles. Go around the fence. This old, I was really interested in this old split rail fence. I love split rail fences. I love to draw them and paint them. So I thought I'd come out here and just practice on the size and shapes and so forth. It'll be a real rough sketch. I'll put some more, a little more texture here in the ground. Just a little more texture. Be a rough background. Just the pine needles, and it's just the coloring now. I'm just trying to capture the coloring here around these trees and the fence line. Split rail fence, love it. So that's the most important area right there. I mixed up a little more of that. You got to mix up a lot of paint to cover an area, and I try to get it on the first move, but you know, go back and mix up some more. Getting those pine needles. This will be a rough background. Not too much detail, just a color. It's a little cloudy today. Yesterday I had a nice sun. I really had a nice sunlight, but I had to leave. Get rid of some business, and decided to come back today and finish it up. So I'm outdoor painting, a little plein air painting. I enjoy this. I think this red now will make this reddish brown to simulate the pine needles. Will do a good job here. Just the color. Trying to cover all those areas, all those spaces in between those little trees and so forth. Yeah, the rougher that looks, the better, because that's going to give it a rough texture of the landscape there. Okay, now in the background, I can do that also. I'm going to put that in. There's a bunch of trees back there and low bushes, so I'm going to mix up. A green. See, with my basic palette, my travel set, all I have is the basic colors, red, yellow, and blue, with a couple extras. I added the burnt sienna and yellow ochre and Payne's gray just to give me some more colors to work with. But my main colors are the yellow lemon, pyro red, and ultramarine blue. Now I'll mix my own greens. But I think it makes a more interesting color when you mix them. So I'm gonna mix up a little bit more, but blue. I got quite a big area back there to cover. It's nice, 8.5. It's only an 8.5 by 10 pad here. About an 8 by 10 sheet. 7.5 by 10. We'll get some texture of the trees back here and bushes. That's all I want to get, just some greenery. There's some greenery here in the background. Okay. Now that'll set off that red. That'll set off that red of the pine cones, which is a nice contrast. Red and green. Little complementary color here. Not worried about too much about the values. Just you hear the old ducks hawking in the background. We know we're in nature. Outdoor painting, plein air. Nice way to relax. Also study nature. Study the colors and the textures and the values. Getting that green back in there. I mixed up my greens, the blue and the yellow. That's all I need. 3 basic colors, red, yellow, and blue. You can mix anything. And I got the burnt sienna and the yellow ochre to just give me a little bit of variety of the other colors, but I could mix them if I had to. Just the convenience, I have an extra color in the palette. The travel set just has the basic color, red, yellow, and blue. The Everett Watercolors travel set. It's on my website, everettwatercolors.com. And I use it every weekend. And sometimes during the week when I'm doing a quick sketch, I do a little walk and sketch journal. And I also have just a basic set with me when I go out. I usually do mostly drawing, but then I'll do some painting also, just to capture some points. Now I'm going to add a little bit of blue in that, just break it up just a little bit, give me a little texture back in there. It's mixed with that greens, darken it up, get some shadows behind those trees. Not worrying about the sky today. Just going to get the interesting background there. That's all I need. Okay, that's really rough. You can see that. Okay, I'm going to let that dry a little bit before I go in with the rest of the painting. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get in the fence line now. I'm going to start with a lighter color first. And this top on the top here is a little bit lighter. So I'm also using a memory of what I did yesterday, that this was the lighter top, the sun was hiding it, but I'm going to use that as my guide here. The top part of these rungs, and on this forward side here was also in light, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that criteria there. This is a lighter edge of the post. And this was lighter here. This lighter here. So I'm using a little bit of memory from yesterday of what I saw as far as colors. And you'll see in the early part of the video, I had this was darker down here. I'm gonna leave this darker down here. Just maybe a little bit of yellow ochre here. I'm using yellow ochre out of the palette here. So I mixed up a little bit of yellow ochre here and a little bit of burnt sienna over here, and I'm gonna mix a little more greens here. But so that's my palette right now, mixed up. A little yellow down here, just a little bit. Okay. And I got this edge, there's an edge of this post over here on the far left, which is a little bit lighter. Okay. And, okay, let's leave that alone then, all right. Let that dry just a little bit before I put the darker on. And the background trees, they're dark. So I can use dark brown. I'm going to use a dark brown back here for these trees. I mix a little bit of burnt sienna with ultramarine blue to give me a dark green, a dark brown. I'll come in here and get this. The dark trees in the background behind the fence. Get those in. That'll show off the light part of the fence line, which is what I want. So everything a little bit darker than the fence. The fence is going to be the lighter area. I want that to be the lightest area showing. Everything else will be a little bit darker. Okay. And there's this tree back here in the background behind the fence. A little bit more in shadow. That'll help set off the fence line a little bit. Here I'm using the 1/2-inch flat brush from my travel set. That does a nice job. Just the right size for a small painting like this. And then I can go ahead and now I've got a round brush, number 6 round, and I'll go in now and put in some of these smaller trees just back in here. Be off in the background. Use a smaller brush. And one more over here. It's just to give you a little background. There's more trees back there, but I just put enough trees there. There's more trees, but just want to put a few just for interest. Break up the background a little bit. Okay, all right, now I can put in the darker side. the darker side of this fence, but these were just a little more in shadow. It's not going to be as dark as those other darks, but I'm going to put this in shadow. This is the darker side. You see I'm using the corner of the brush, the edge of the brush, or the flat brush, so it's just, I can use it just like a round brush. It's just the way I curve it around. Finish it off. I'll come in with a round brush and do just a few touches. Okay. So that's the darker side of these posts. They were in shadow. Hopefully the lighter side will indicate that that's where the sun was shining. The lighter side. And the darker side is in shadow. To show depth even in the fence line. To show depth. Here I'm using the corner of the brush, coming down, corner and edge of the brush. Make a nice dark edge there, so it shows off as light against dark. Okay, I got that. And we'll get this other post over here. Get the shadow side. Plein air painting. You paint what you see, but you also can interpret and simplify, and eliminate a lot of the extra details that you don't need to show. I mean, there's enough here to show that this is what I was painting, was the split rail fence. That's my main interest here. I just wanted to catch a little section of it to explain that, tell the story. Interesting. Split rail fence are just they're held together with no nails. There's no hardware at all. It's just they're matched together through the notches and the shape of the hole. So that makes them a very unique fence. No hardware involved. I think these are very aesthetic, old-fashioned fences. I love them. You see a lot of them on old farms, old properties have split rail fences. Make this a little bit darker because it's in shadow. Okay. Now I got to get the underside of this, so I'm gonna use this round brush now. Use a round brush just to show a difference here. This I'm going to put underneath here on this side. This is the shadow section. It's not a flat board. It's a rail, and it's at an angle. So part of it was in shadow here, and part of it was in light. It has an angle. There's an edge to it. It's not a perfect. Not a perfect piece of wood. It's just basically a log. So let's see. Now this here has shadow up to here on this edge. And the little part here comes out through the. You can see the edge of this one comes in over here. And there was a little shadow under this. This separates these two pieces here. the shadow right here. This edge here. Okay, enough to show that. And then down here, this was from my recollection, because this was at the angle it was shown. It was just almost all of it was in shadow. The little edge of it was showing. But this was a little bit darker down here at the bottom. And so I want to make it dark enough to show up, but not to overtake the painting. There's a little round brush, number 6 round, for a little detail and for small areas. Yeah, these posts here were a continuation. Of the next rung. I just want to have enough here to show the one section here. I think that was the most interesting part. I'm going to try to show a little bit of roughness here also. These are not smooth, not real perfectly smooth boards, but they, you know, it's rough wood. Show a little bit of grooves in there. The end over here is a little bit in shadow, and this edge of this section up here was in shadow. Now what's interesting is the inside, and the inside of, I'm going to try to get the edge here now. Inside of this was in shadow. That'll show the inside of that. And I'll have to paint the background on top of that. This was in shadow because the angle, the perspective here, this was a little more in shadow here, and so was this. This was all in shadow. Okay. Whew. All right. Let that dry a little bit. Okay, let's take a quick look. Now this is not the way, when I originally saw it, of course it was different. You'll see that in the original section of this video, but here now this is the next day. It's a little bit duller today. So I want to capture, I got a little more finishing touches to do, so I'm going to go back and do a few more finishing touches before I finish it off. Okay, I mixed up a little more of that red and burnt sienna with red, and I take this little background here. A little groove you can see to show the background. I want to get that in for detail. But there was, you see the edges, there was a dark edge there. Okay, and what I think I'll do now, I'm going to take my bristle brush, go back here and put in a little bit of texture for the trees, capture that feeling back there of bushes and trees. So just take the green mixture I have here and go back in and just put in some tapping motions with the bristle brush, and that'll give me that a little more feeling for the texture on the background. You know, it was just as far as, not detail, but as far as a little more detail on there was a little bit of grass down here around the base of this tree, and that was about it. There was not much grass around those pine needles. Okay, that was about it. Okay, and what I think I'll do is I'm going to use the flat brush now, and I'm going to I'm going to add a little more reddish brown. I want to darken up around the fence a little bit more. So I'm going to come in here and add another layer. I want this to be a little bit darker than the fence so that it shows, especially right here at the edges. Get that a little more contrast here with the fence post in the background. And sharpen up these edges there. I think that'll make it look a little better. So I'm concentrating, getting a little more contrast around the edge of the fence post and the fence rail. Okay. Eliminating a little bit of white, just a little bit of white paper that's showing it. I'm kind of cleaning it up a little bit more. Okay, over here on this edge. Light edge against the darker background, and then get a little more underneath it here on the bottom. Yeah, you got just one more area up here. That's up here at the top near the horizon line, at the top of the fence. Mix up a little more of that brown and red, reddish brown. That's burnt sienna and mixed in with a little bit of pyro red. Make this at the top of this railing and against this red. I'll make that a little bit darker so it shows up a little better. Dark against light, lighter against darker. Covering up a little bit of white paper. Especially along the edges here, just along the edge. That's really contrast is where edges are. Get those edges a little darker. Okay. Well, I think I turned out real good. I really enjoyed this painting today. It was a lot of fun. And I think what I'll do, I got one more little area I want to touch up. And I think what I'll do, I'll go in with more of that yellow ochre. A little bit of ochre and the yellow lemon, just that yellow ochre. And I'm going to go in and put a little more color here on the side. That first layer was a little bit pale. So I want to beef it up just a little bit, with a little more color here on the lighter side, of the lighter edge of this fence. Yeah, I think that's better. Especially up here, this big railing up here. This was a little bit pale. So I want to darken up just slightly. And also pick up some of that red. We eliminated some of the edges of that. Let's see, this side over here. Okay. So what happens when you're painting wet on wet here? It'll start overlapping on it. So I'm going to pick some of that red up that got mixed in with that, and that's okay. It'll dry. It'll dry another color. And then down here on this edge, just a little bit darker down here. Cover up some of that white. Okay, and that one little edge over here, I want to get this a little bit darker. A little more color on this edge over here. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now I got to do a little bit of cleanup here. I got the red running into the yellow, so I'll pick up a little bit of that color there. Okay. That's okay over there, and that's okay over there. Okay. All right. And I can pick up a little bit of drip here. Take a little dry brush. Pick the dry brush and then go in and pick up that, cover up a little more of those whites. Yeah, that's good enough. All right. That concludes my painting for today. Let's do a close-up of that. Let's show that one off a little bit. Take another look at the scene. That's what I was trying to capture.